All right, let's go over here. And shrink this. And would you mind keeping track of the chat if there are any questions? Thank you. 5 years ago, but PHP has advanced. Like the modern PHP, you're not going to call it a strongly typed language. It's still loosely typed, but the latest features that have gone into PHP are modern features. And so you can, if you program properly, you can use modern programming techniques with PHP. And there's even PHP that's going to act as, like Java, a running server that can handle requests. Because right now PHP is very much a request loop, request response loop. You make a request of PHP, it responds, and then it shuts down. And then the next request comes in and it's instantiated again, answers the question, and it shuts down. Well, there's actually work going on in PHP to be more like Java, where it is a running server that will take requests. And then you have all kinds of features that you can add when you are doing that. So PHP doesn't have to be stodgy. And part of the challenge is to share with students, look, you can actually use lots of modern techniques with PHP. And then it's also awareness, because if they're leaving student life and they're going into the world, we'd like them to think of Drupal when they want to make a website rather than all the other things. Now, the interesting thing is that I think what we're also dealing with is, in large part, is just the plethora of choices. It's sort of like Tesla when it was the only kid on the block. Of course, they're going to have 90% market share. Well, way back when I first started with Drupal back in 2007, there weren't that many choices that were real choices. I mean, do you guys remember Plone back in 2007? Okay. And then there was Joomla. Joomla's done well. Joomla still has 1.6 million developers, I think, which is actually much more than Drupal. But what's actually happened is now, if you want to make a website, you've got what, 100 different technology stacks that you can choose from. So Drupal is also dealing with a very crowded market. Again, if you're going to fight back against that, you have to get in there early and introduce the students to your technology before anyone else does. All right, I have to click here. Okay, so what would we say, how could we define the next generation developer? And I want to actually get into a conversation with you guys all at the end, but bookmark this, okay? So maybe it's familiarization over mastery. Why would I say that? Well, we'll come back to that. Drupal and PHP as valuable components. Okay, we want to do that for sure. Drupal is a solution that students can leverage to solve a problem. Well, yeah, with Drupal CMS especially. I wish we had done Drupal CMS 10 years ago, personally. I think everyone here is nodding. We should have done that. Do you remember those conversations that we had? Yeah, 10 years ago, are we going to be more about technology or marketing? And well, it didn't either, but don't you think we did go more towards technology? We're still known as like, if you ask the bots, tell me about Drupal and compare it to the other one. Yeah, absolutely. Even all the bots are going to say, technically Drupal is great, and it's, and the other, something like WordPress is not as loved by the technical people. So we actually have an opportunity with Drupal CMS to have it top of mind when people have a problem they need to solve. Okay, who's the next generation Drupal user? Well, we want them to think that it's an easy to use platform. That definitely was not true 5 years ago, in my opinion. And now it's getting better, especially with Drupal CMS. We want it to be the go-to, or at least in consideration for launching a new site. And where is one of the huge benefits of Drupal? It's definitely an information architecture. Because you take a look at WordPress, for instance, and they don't have nearly what we can do with information architecture. So the opportunity of the whole initiative is we enhance student employability, If you want to come join us on our meetings, come collaborate with us. I'll describe more about how to do that in a second. You already have a curriculum. If you have access to students and you want to teach them, we have a curriculum already. One of the tracks, which I'm about to get into, is a Teach the Teacher program. There's already an access to wealth of community-driven resource, industry recognition, and more. Okay, so what stage is the initiative at? It's still pretty much at the beginning. A lot of work has been done and a lot still to be done, and the curriculum is taking shape. We have 90 people in the Slack channel. Tracks are being generated, which I'm about to talk about in just a second, and the initiative is maturing. Okay, so one thing that I added in here is what are the main differences between this initiative and resources like Drupalize Me, Drupal at your fingertips, or Drupal TB. And basically, you do need a curriculum for students. You can't just wing it. You actually have to have something that starts at 0 and brings you to the end. You also want it to be something that, and I'm sorry, I was thinking of another slide about me adding, this is one of our standard slides. And then the next thing you also want to do is you want to have it free, because Drupalize Me costs something. Now, I can actually say something nice about Drupalize Me and their generous offer in just a second. The other thing is that technical textbooks expire rapidly, but there is a rising demand for books on Drupal. Well, one way to do it is you can write it open sourcely. And so this idea came from there. And so what are the tracks? The tracks that we're looking at are courses, teachers, getting the teachers up to date, getting the universities on board. University of Reykjavik clearly already loves the idea, and then getting the community involved. Okay, so I had already mentioned Drupal CMS is a great way to introduce people to it, because all of a sudden, out of the box, these students are going to get very useful websites. We could not say that before. You had to be at least a site builder before Drupal CMS came around. Okay, so here was the offer I was telling you about with Drupalize Me. So I think it was Addison who came on to the Slack channel, and he said 40% discount to support students. So the curriculum, if you look at the current curriculum, there's often for each section, it's okay. And if you want to learn more about Drupalize Me, go to this chapter. Well, that chapter may not always be guaranteed to be free. Drupalize Me does provide some free content, but they're a for-profit company, so not all of it. Well, Drupalize Me will give a 40% discount to support students. And I already covered why not just send students to Drupalize Me? Well, a curriculum is still needed, and their curriculum, which is very thorough. I don't know if you guys have looked at Drupalize Me recently. It's very thorough. And that may not be what your curriculum, the time that you have with your students. You may need to deal with other topics. Who knows? But anyway, it can't be that you just send people to Drupalize Me. There we go. Okay, so let's get started. How to reach us. There on the Drupal workspace, there is the Open University channel, bi-weekly meetings, and then there are track meetings that for the people who get involved with the individual tracks. And those are some of the key people. I don't consider myself a key people. I just volunteered to give this talk so that we could socialize what's going on out there. Okay, but if you do want to talk to, I would say, our initiative lead, it is definitely Drupal Viking, or you can email me and I'll put you in touch, something like that. Okay, so that's it. I have some ideas for what to chat about. Let's see, screen sharing stopped. Yeah, that's right. I didn't really want to do that. Don't do that. Oh, I lost it. Okay, it's gone. I don't know what happened to that browser. All right, so what I wanted to chat about is what does it mean to prepare someone with a new technology, given how fast the AI bots are learning how to program. Like, when I thought about this, I said to myself, oh, shoot, that's a big job. We've got to get someone from 0 to 100 miles an hour in 4 years or something like that. Is that true anymore? Well, I don't know. Okay, who has thoughts?
Can you repeat that again?
The Zoom channel isn't able to hear any of the conversation currently.
Government just a different technique for getting there, right? Like whatever criteria you're using now, you can do whatever you want. What I would say.
Mark said something interesting in his section when he was talking about Winston. He said that he used to do one code review once a day. He was now he's a senior developer who's developed for 20 years. That
Okay. Are you?
well, we're not sure if the microphone is still miking.
All right, that's better. We can hear you.
Find out. Input. Microphone. Here's the volume. Here we go. How's that?
Can you hear?
Yeah, we can
That's
hear
you hear
you.
us
better.
now?
That's better. That's better.
Can hear when you're close by. Okay. Cool. We'll all gather right around.
We'll all gather around the laptop.
Here, put our hands on the laptop. They teach a lot of theory and a lot of general programming, how to program, but they don't necessarily teach knowledge of things like Drupal, which is a web publishing, marketing, but other things, but largely, I think marketing. And so actually the web classes, the web programming design classes at UC Davis, they come out of the design school, not the computer science department. And so that was a question that I had: is what department are you targeting for this for this curriculum? Because there's a big difference between the design or communications or the communications department, the design department, compared to the computer science department. And so I would think this probably would not fly in our computer science department, but might fly in our communications department. And or it would be, I took a class when I was in school, and it was databases for the humanities. So they taught you, and I'm an economics. That's why I took the class, and I thought, they're awesome, right? And then I started. But that was a great class because it got humanity people into CS to learn about how to manage your. So that's like, where do you expect this curriculum to throw it at a university? Here, teach this, right?
If I turn on the volume, can we hear Rosendo, or am I gonna get
Or are you gonna
feedback?
have-
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, yeah, we were trying to avoid feedback, so go ahead, Rosendo.
Awesome. I heard part of that question, but like right now, I'm in my master's for user experience and web development over at Arizona State University. And part of it is there is computer science, there's technical writing, and then UX design. And I want to be a college professor, and just sort of the things that are coming up in my mind, because I do want to teach, because I work for government, is does it make sense to obviously Drupal CMS is new, but does it make more sense in an academic curriculum where we target Drupal's strengths? Because a lot of it is already talking about WordPress and stuff, and I think we can offer, like, it makes sense to offer it, but where Drupal stands out against WordPress and a lot of these other sites are like preparing people for government, healthcare, and other initiatives if you want to get into higher ed. And it makes sense even Drupal CMS from a technical writing perspective. So people aren't really dealing with difficult things. I'm just trying to make sense of how that all works and what your guys' plans are, how you're going to communicate that.
That's a similar question.
Yeah, it's a similar question, and it's a good point, and one of the presenter notes for the slides did point out that especially for government, because now Drupal is an what is the name?
Mm-hmm.
Technology for good or something, it just got that designation.
Yeah.
Yeah, technology for public good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take a look at the adoption by universities and governments, it's huge. It's
Yeah. Arizona State University does it. So I know, like, and that's where I want to teach. So like, and I'm doing Drupal. So I see the value. And just so you get my experience and feedback, I went for web design, web development. We were in WordPress. And I see the use case for WordPress on much smaller scale, but for Drupal on a much larger scale makes sense. But like, even my organization, I'm through Drupalize Me, but it took a lot of effort to get them to want to invest into Drupalize Me, and I did it alone. I was in Drupal by myself for 5 years. So I do see the value of offering it at a university, because it's hard to get people to buy in. So I don't know. I see the value of offering both CMS and enterprise. But I know just from my experience, enterprise makes a lot of sense because people are going to throw out WordPress, they're going to throw out Wix. And where does really Drupal shine other than we need more time with CMS, right?
and I don't think students are actually saying, I want to graduate with skill in WordPress. But we could use Drupal as, wait a minute, I actually know how to work on these giant government sites and pharmaceutical sites and whatever.
Exactly.
Well,
That could be an angle that gets them interested.
so that's
Correct.
the domain knowledge, right? So if Drupal's strength is really the information architecture, which I think that it is, that's not what's being taught, right? Why is that important? Well, that's important if you're in communications, or you want to get your message out, you want to formulate your ideas or formulate your data, your content in an intelligent way so that people will be able to consume communications problem, right? That's not a technical problem. Drupal is the answer. So that's where that otherwise, you're making a website. Well, any website is as good as another. It's how, if you're in the design, you want to be able to paint your page, right? You don't care about what the back end is, right? And that's why something like WordPress is popular, because you just throw it out there. But when you're talking about, particularly in the enterprise, you got to be able to organize it and use the way librarian than it is like computer science.
And it struck me, do we have another person with a question? Sharon, hang on just a second. I just want to riff off of what Sean just said. It struck me that what Drupal might have to do is the classic nicheify in order to be the answer for a particular group. Like we're past the time when we could be the general solution for everyone. In this, we know we can, but if you want to actually break through all the marketing clutter, you have to be able to identify people who say, that person is showing me a solution that's perfect for me. And that's why if we said it's information architecture for government and universities and higher education, then, and you had a course like that, and you titled it like that, that might get the students much more interested than just learn Drupal. Okay, did you want to just respond before?
After them first.
Okay, Sharon, you're up.
Thank you. I didn't hear the other person's response, but I was just going to comment that when people bring up WordPress and the other, sort of graphical approach, like Wix and things, I think the thing where Drupal stands out and where it makes sense in government and education and science is because of the information architecture and because of the the ability to have complex content where you enter it once, but you display and use it many times is something that these other things don't really do. And I think if you have that as part of what you're kind of saying, why you should teach people Drupal, is emphasizing the fact that it isn't just make a website. It's make a website that has complex content that is made easy for people to, easy for the web visitor to comprehend, because you've made it, you've done a structure for it. I don't know. I'm losing all my words, so hope that made sense.
No, it totally made sense. And then, so you were recently in academia and you're still in academia. What is the percent of time that the data in the website has to be redeployed outside of just the website? In other words, that's very interesting.
That is going to vary hugely across disciplines and departments and projects and labs. There are various places where the data is being shared in multiple different ways. These are a lot of places where Drupal's already being used because of that aspect. So it's one of these things that just varies hugely, and it's not just the sciences though. I work in technology and have pretty much my whole career, but my PhD is in history. But in my history degree, you know, I used a relational database. Well, I had to write one because I didn't know they existed. A relational database in order to, study what I was trying to study. So it's all across the disciplines. And that someone earlier commented about, data is something for humanities. This is one of the places where I think Drupal CMS may come in, maybe one of the things that can be pointed at, or used for pitching to that audience, because they do not necessarily want to be coders, but they want to be able to put their data on a website in a way that makes sense, not just I have to write a book, put it on a website, but I have info I have collected.
Even a little louder, even a little louder. Wait a minute, see now I'm.
I got you are, or again, to be right.
All right. The front of the room.
I should put a little fireplace here.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, but can someone clarify something? Because you said earlier the FAQs are actually really good.
Yeah,
And for teaching vector databases knowledge, and you just saying something similar, like it has to be structured. But for me, someone new to AI, and I thought you just pointed the AI at a web page.
you can,
But
just like you can always point Google at your website, but there's things you can do to make it a little better.
This is, AI optimization.
Right.
Okay, so this is interesting because I'm gonna go back to the team. I'm going to share all this. What I'm hearing is if we made it so that Drupal were interesting from an AI standpoint and from an information architecture
Which is the same
standpoint,
thing.
that all would be very interesting to a
Yeah.
student.
Yeah.
So
Now, do you have an example of how I could add that into the curriculum? Like, what would a lesson be that I could teach someone to say, you are making a website
It's already
for
stuff
AI?
that they know.
Yeah.
It's already stuff, like you said, it's information architecture. One of the things that people hate about Drupal is it's so structured. Because it's like, oh, taxonomies, geez, I don't understand that. Or I have to create content types and structure them with data types. People don't like that because it's
Okay,
complicated.
give me a page painter. Let me just do what I want,
Yeah,
right?
so what-
But then it's a mess, accessibility wise, SEO wise, AI wise, all of that reasons that using something like Gutenberg makes a big mess. While Drupal forces you, or you can force it to be way more structured in your content.
For sure.
And
Right.
then you're creating a better content store for your AI to be able to vectorize.
Right.
Okay, next question, follow-up question. Can I even teach the AIs if I go one step further and I take my data, transform it in some way, and then
Yeah,
feed it
yeah. So this is the
to
thing.
the
There was an album I loved in the 90s called Taking Drugs to Make Music to Take Drugs Too. So I know what this is about, which is like use the AI to create the data structures, to create the architecture that the AI can consume so that you get a better answer out of the AI.
something like that.
Right. Let me give a concrete example, which I don't know if you can use, but we were talking before about how we have a chatbot that we're feeding 100 websites. We've got hundreds of thousands of pages in this vector database, right?
Right.
But because we have one platform that all the sites have a sitemap.xml, they're all in the same format. The HTML is largely the same format. We know where in the page different data happens to be. We can focus the AI to only look at that stuff and ignore the stuff that's sort of annoying.
We actually created an API to vectorize that just put the important data.
Put just the important data in there.
Yeah.
But you couldn't possibly do that if all your stuff is just thrown onto a page and dragged around, because then all you have are position and, who knows what that data actually is.
That's very interesting because I'm doing some scraping right now and I'm asking from the scraped data and I'm sending it to an AI, to a bot, and I'm asking it to do some analysis for me. And it's giving me the analysis of the menu and the
Right,
blocks
yeah,
on
that's
the
right.
right-hand
Exactly.
side.
You
That's
list
all that
stuff,
bullshit.
You
Right.
don't have.
But we know that everything is going to be inside our content tag. So just grab the content tag.
Grab the-
Yeah.
But if we had, WordPress and other things, it may not have a content tag, in which case, okay, well, we just got to feed it the whole thing, I guess.
Well, you have that mixing of, one of the things that Drupal does really well is separation concerns between
Right.
the content, the
theme,
design,
yeah.
and so in that
Yeah.
content's abstracted already. That's why, again, people hate it because they just want to make a pretty site and have everything line up the way
Right.
they want to line up.
Can I share again? I think the value of all that is the enterprise system, right? Is that fine if I share my screen? I can show you because I'm some classes at ASU that I'm taking.
Yeah, I think you could share. Is that what
Yeah,
you're?
yeah, because it's different with every school, but like what I see, especially at ASU, because I know they use it. Can you see the classes right now?
Yeah.
They offer already something called website design and internet web technologies, and then they offer like advanced web markup and scripts, website and e-commerce strategies. I can really see a value of it instead of doing that, like foundations of enterprise web systems. Like we're not just saying Drupal, but like, hey, here's basic stuff, and then there's enterprise web architecture systems where we're talking about, okay, there are separation of concerns. There's config files, and then there's cloud hosting, serverless, and back-end development, front-end development. If you want to be a technical writer, there is a huge value to that they're not teaching in these other classes, because these classes here, the website design stuff, these are just basic like HTML design authoring standard protocols, where Drupal's way past this. They get you prepared to do responsive web design, or basic computer science. But Drupal, even if you just go to computer science, it's still very advanced enterprise architecture. And I think that's what we're all talking about, is even the different areas of Drupal, the information architecture. To me, that still all applies to enterprise web systems.
Right. Hey, can I ask, that says GIT, what department is that those classes are in?
Yes, good question. It's called Graphic Information Technology. So at ASU, they offer, it's in the engineering school. So IRA Fulton Schools of Engineering, there's computer science, and then this is called Graphic Information Technology. It's basically a mix of web development and user experience design. So they teach WordPress, they teach other technologies, HTML, CSS, UX design. So it's in the engineering school. It's just not so heavy computer science.
Right. So this goes back to something else I was saying earlier. UC Davis is a research university. There are different kinds of universities that target different things. So
Correct.
The system, Stanford, Harvard, we're research. We focus on research like a lot. And so what we don't necessarily focus on, for better or for worse, is to train you for a job. We train you to do research because we're a research university.
Yeah.
Right. We don't, I mean, obviously people go and get a job afterwards doing all kinds of stuff, not necessarily research, but like UC Davis doesn't have anything like that. Santa Cruz actually has some, because they have a design. Actually, my brother Robert, who works here, went through the UC Santa Cruz design, digital something or other. But the other thing, I'll say one more thing and then I'm done. What UC Davis does have, and most of the UCs have, are called an extension. We also call it continuing and professional education. And that's sort of like our built-in trade school. That's where I think this would be a great program to run, because that you don't have to go there for a 4-year university. You can just take a program, get a certification or certificate in Drupal development or something like that, in a 6-week course, right? And I don't know how long this is you're building, but okay, right. But they also have 2-year programs. Ours, we have a big beer brewing program. It's a 2-year program, right? You become a beer brewmaster after that. So, but I think for UC Davis, we wouldn't have a department that this would necessarily fit in particularly well. Maybe a class that's sort of like, information architecture for the humanities, kind of like the database show, right? So maybe something like that. But the extension, I think, would be the place where this would really do very well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to, about the thing that people hate when they first encounter Drupal, is that structuredness, that they're like, what do I do with this? But one of the things is, I mean, I, once a month on the third Thursday, I do Drupal as Drop and Help. And then I work with a bunch of different departments. In Stanford, they hire me directly for a project. And a lot of them, I'm working with people who are not technical. They're academics or they're working in a lab. And when they come to me, they do not have any concept about websites and structured stuff. But when I start talking to them about what they want on their website, and then I start working with them, this is just in like 15 minutes, with them about, so this is kind of the information you have, and this is how we could structure it, and Drupal can do this. And they actually start getting excited because they didn't know this was possible. And they didn't think of it in these terms.
Sharon, are you saying that they didn't know that you could structure things and then retrieve them in a nice way in the future?
On the web, that on a website that they could build themselves? No, they had no idea. And I'm talking these scientists who are working with structured information all the time. Sometimes, and also people in the humanities. And sometimes, I mean, it's just things like, at Stanford, we have Stanford sites and they've provided a lot of things for them. So for example, we've got a thing where, you put people, there's a people content type, and so they can put it in and show all sorts of different ways. But so, even some of the most basic stuff, once they get introduced to, hey, you can do this and you can do it with other information, not just what Stanford Sites has given you if you aren't in Stanford Sites. And Stanford Sites, you only can get to do what they're giving you. But they get, it's because they haven't thought of it in database structured content architecture. They haven't thought of it in those terms because that's not how they talk about it in their realm. And but it is something that, I've had everything from just, administrators in a, in the, staff administrators in a department for, biology who aren't dealing with science, but are dealing with people. And when I've, shown them, talked to them about what they wanted to do and the kind of information they had and started plotting it out, they start seeing the point pretty rapidly. And then they get really frustrated when they can't do it on some other platform.
Hey, so the three of you who are closely in or working in academia, so you had mentioned already that structuring helps with AI. Sharon, you said that you're helping people understand how structuring can work. What other ways are the data being repurposed?
Well, so you can take the data and using, if it's well structured, you can then repurpose it to other places on the website, like using fees and having it surface in different places. But through something like JSON API means you could put it on the TVs in the student lounge, right? If you had an event, a central event listing or a news feed, then you could take that JSON and you could output, not the whole thing, because you don't want to output a web page on a TV in the student lounge. That's stupid, right? You want to provide a nice listing of titles, location, and time and date of events. But you can't do that if all you have is a blob of text on a web page.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yes, exactly. And I would say for, internally reusing the same information. I mean, for instance, at a university, some professor, you're going to talk about the professor a lot on various different places. And you don't want to enter the same information about this professor on every one of those pages. But if you have a content type, you can enter that information in, and then you can use it all sorts of different ways. One, you can just have links to it whenever they get mentioned in an article. Two, you can have a list that's like, here's the professors who are studying this type of thing, and here's the professors who are studying this type of thing, or, here's the list of professors and where they're located physically, where their offices are, because people are looking for different information when they come to the website. There's lots of different users with lots of different things they're looking for, and they do not want to have all of the information poured on them. But information about the same entity, the same person, the same class, the same whatever, there's lots of different places on the website where naturally you would ideally like to see some of that information, not all of it, but the relevant bits. And that's kind of the internal to the website. Enter it once, but you can display this wherever it makes sense. And have automatically created lists and things like this. And that's what they get fairly excited about. And then the more advanced people get very excited about that, and it can talk to all these other systems, or pull information in from other systems.
Right, use feeds to pull in data.
Let me give you another example. So this happens more often than you would hope, but before we had layout builder, the only thing you had was whatever you had in your body and then whatever fields you had, and then the block system. You could place blocks and say, well, only put this block on this one page. And you could do sort of like, some sort of multi-column layout by putting blocks on a page, right? Mm-hmm. So all the time what we would see is people didn't even want to use the body content. They just wanted to put blocks on a page, right? So then they go and they say, Sean, why, when I search for this term on the search on the website, how come this page doesn't show up? And I have to explain to them that blocks are not in that content, and that content will never be surfaced unless the content is in the node itself, right? It's not just like, this isn't Google, right? This is, you're actually searching content on the site very specifically.
I remember.
Yep. So then you can also go into like, well, if you create a view, you can have an exposed filter and actually be able to have faceted searches or be able to search for specific things if they're all in separate fields. Otherwise, you're just stuck with keyword search if you're lucky.
Well, that's the big search might be used more often. Structured data.
Exactly.
Facilitate.
Right. The next, and this is another enterprise thing, is personalization. Right. So only if your content is well structured and well organized using categories and stuff, can you then expose based on people's interest. Right. You can expose these blocks and not these blocks, you know, like a performing arts center. This person shows up, they click on a bunch of jazz links, they go back to the home site or the home page. You better show them some jazz, right? You better not show them the comedy guy that's coming, right? And so that's the kind of stuff that only can be done if you have really good tagging, really good content structure, and you're actually diligent. We're at great conversation.
So Rosendo, you wanted to say one more thing before you get the last word?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question for you guys. Have you guys thought about like a message, how you're going to communicate it? Because I think this is a good opportunity to try to understand students. Majority of students are in their early 20s, and you know, I've heard, at least at DrupalCon, they've said we have more developers that are going to want to lean more towards front end development tools, JavaScript frameworks, because those are the trends. And I think a lot of that is because there's just a lack of understanding. You know, they think PHP is dead, or you know, like, and I get a lot of people that sort of, even in classes right now, they know I do Drupal, and they're like, oh, why are you doing Drupal? Because they don't understand the benefits. So have you guys thought about a marketing message on why informing people to sort of change the perspective of Drupal, and say, this is why, you know, this is why students should learn Drupal?
Well, that's what I'm going to go back to the team in our next meeting and share about. I'm going to say, maybe we don't mention PHP in the title of the course. Maybe we don't mention Drupal in the title of the course. What we mention is preparing yourself for great government jobs or whatever, like some way that gets them in. No, it's going to be something about information architecture and all the things we were talking about now. I was being a little, playful here, but the point is and you can actually say, these are really actually important fundamental concepts. And for this course, we're going to happen to use Drupal. Well, now you killed two birds with one stone. Right. But what got them interested in all these topics that we were talking about.
Yeah, I would say that's actually an excellent thing, because the concepts of the information architecture and the other, you know, concepts of that these things can be integrated with other systems and things like this. These are all concepts that are, you know, universal in any kind of, you know, whatever technology is involved. These things they're things you ought to be doing.
Exactly.
And it, you know, this, you can sell it as this is the, you know, we're going to do it in Drupal, but, and then when they go out and look at other things, they'll go, but this doesn't do it as easy as Drupal.
Okay. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write all this stuff up so that everyone else in the initiative can get what we were talking about today. Maybe if I'll do another one of these, and I'll update everyone on how I a better chance of getting excited than just saying, hey, Drupal. But for what? For what? By the way, if you want to participate, I want to make sure you know that slide, come to the Slack channel on the Drupal Open University Initiative. Come participate with us. If you have curricula that you want to share, please do. Otherwise, thank you everyone for attending the talk, and we'll see you online. All right.
When's the next meeting? It says bi-weekly, but like, when's the next